Welcome to Sips with the Suriel. I'm Jenna.
I'm Danielle.
And I'm Dina.
We're just three best friends who like to get together and talk books. We would love for you to follow along with us each week, just like a book club. We will tell you the week before what book we will be discussing so you can make sure that you've read it. If you check out our Instagram, each of us likes to make art, so we will post our art interpretations for each book. Mostly Dina just does it now. Today, we have the author A.M. Colwell, Ilea, here with us. She's the author of The White Mass Society and The Guardians. Welcome, Ilea. We're so happy to have you here.
Hi, thank you. It's so great to be here. I love chatting with you.
Yay! Okay, great. So here at Sips with the Suriel, we like to pair a drink with the books we talk about. So today we've created, Dina, do you have it present?
I did not make it tonight. I was running a little bit behind. I am so sorry, but
I can have my husband bring it up. I left it downstairs. I was like, oh, shit.
We titled it The Omega Project, which is basically a play on the Manhattan drink that's out there.
Oh,
so
I love that.
It has bourbon, Amaro, sweet vermouth. So yeah,
What is
Amaro?
Amaro?
Delicious too.
Like I don't know, liqueur.
Okay.
I guess. Yeah.
I'm telling my husband to bring it upstairs right now. Okay. So, Ilea, we did a little bit of research and saw that you're also an actor, which is so exciting.
Yes. Yeah. I guess exciting is one way to put it. It's one of those things where I wish I were into literally anything else. I wish I wanted to be an accountant, but unfortunately, here I am.
Also, I'm such a fantasy book nerd, but your hair is so beautiful. It reminds me of
like all
what
the
I would
FMCs.
imagine. Yeah, what I would imagine Aelin Galathynius or Manon's hair to be.
Oh my gosh, that is the nicest thing you could have said. I had red hair for a long time, and I was like, let me just go as blonde as I can get it. Just for kicks. And I like it, but I also really miss the red. But I have noticed a lot of really white blonde hair showing up in books, in the Everflame books and everything. And I'm oh, okay, no, this is
it works.
So I'll enjoy it.
It looks good on you.
Thank you.
I would have thought that you were naturally that color.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it definitely looks natural.
Mm-hmm. It looks shiny too.
Yeah, even powerless, the silver
clean,
savior.
So, yeah, that helps.
So funny. So what made you start writing? Did you start off with acting first or writing first?
They kind of both started at the same time. So, for some reason in my child-addled brain, it never occurred to me that I could be a professional writer. I was just acting. And then, when you're a kid, you're I'll do my backup profession, whatever, will be something equally preposterous like basketball, which I was never even good at basketball. But writing was something I always did for fun. And it wasn't until 2020 when we were all gifted time, right, during lockdown, that I was oh, let me, finish these stories that I have and then start pursuing that. So I was writing as early as I was acting, but I had been pursuing a career in the theater and film and cinema and TV much longer than a career as a writer.
Very cool.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way you say gifted time, because that's a very nice positive spin on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and there were a lot of really difficult things about that year, but I really do feel like I took as much advantage of that as possible, where I was, I literally was able to finish, the book, and, that's not something I had been able to do up until then. So it
You're
did
right.
seem the gift of time.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
I love that.
Yeah. So outside of writing and acting, what are your hobbies? What do you love? What are your passions?
I guess the only thing that's not adjacent to stories is running. I started running a few years ago.
Amazing.
And now that has become something that's absolutely crucial to my mental health.
Wow.
My husband and I love traveling, which is of course not something that's quite as accessible. So we do that when we can, but I do love it. And then otherwise, reading, watching movies, watching TV shows, just any kind of story that's the most, I mean, even when I'm running, I'm listening to audiobooks, right? So it is the most important thing and I'm sure you all can relate, right?
Mhm.
It's like,
Not
what
to the
is there
running
if
part
not?
though. If you
Yeah, no
if you
running
see
here, but
if you see
audiobooks for
me
sure.
if you see me running, it's because someone's trying to murder me.
Well, yeah, it's good preparation for the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, for
you
sure.
I can
go.
For sure.
definitely outlast them. I don't know if I can be faster, but I can run longer than they can, hopefully.
Oh, for sure.
So,
That's good. It's good to practice.
Husband came in clutch and brought the
beautiful.
drink.
Yay.
So
The Omega
ta-da.
Project.
Yay, I love it.
Omega.
I'll have to tell my husband. That's the way I can actually get him excited about something in that book.
Amazing. So I love hearing different authors and what their like rituals are for like how they get into the zone of writing. Like, what's your writing setup? Do you need like a cozy corner? Are you in a bookstore? Are you in a coffee shop? Do you have like a go-to drink or snack?
Right. I've listened to all of the interviews that y'all have done, and
Thanks.
I knew this question was coming. I have the worst answer, because the answer is the truth is honestly, like, no, I'm not good with ritual. The thing I want the most is time. And so it doesn't really matter where or when, or if I have, a snack or whatever. The thing that I know is, like, it's going to take me at least 15 minutes to get back into the story, to know where I am and what needs to happen. And so I'm really bad at carving out just like little bits of time throughout the day. And I know that in order for me to make any real progress, I need to have at least a solid hour. So I guess my only ritual is like scheduling time in, but otherwise, like, I'll do it anywhere. I've been writing in our backyard, or the living room, and then like at my other jobs, like I'll take my computer and I'll do it like if I have time at work and stuff like that. So it's really just time.
And what part of the world do you live in that you're writing in your backyard?
Oh, I'm in the Atlanta area, and there's a narrow sliver of time where it's not cold, like the winter's done, and it's not quite too humid, and the mosquitoes haven't come out yet. The mosquitoes are out, but that time was in March. It's come and gone. But I got so addicted to being out there that now I'm just like desperate to do it in the early morning before the mosquitoes come out. And I know it's about to become untenable to be out there because of the heat and the humidity and the bugs. So trying to take advantage of it as much as possible until that happens.
Oh,
I know the spring is the best. The rejuvenation and everything. It's good for the mind, the soul.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Honestly, everything fall through spring I love. I'm not a summer fan.
No.
Well, I'm from Texas, and it is
summer like 90% of the year.
The middle of May, and we hit 100 today.
You guys hit 100. Yeah, I saw online. I was like, how is that even possible?
Dina.
It is so hot.
Time to move, Dina.
I mean, we got like a solid week of maybe some good, I guess, weather, but it was still rainy. So yeah. But mosquito season's definitely coming for us too, so I'm not looking forward to that either.
Is it humid in Texas also?
Very humid, and I'm South Texas, so like we're super, like, I'm probably like at 100% humidity over here. It's crazy.
Oh, geez. In my head, I think of Texas as being dry, but I guess
parts. I mean, it's such a large state that you get different weather, like wherever you go. And when I go to the central, Texas area, my hair is beautiful. I can go days with it. It looks, I was in Austin a couple weekends ago and it just looked amazing. And then I come down here and I'm like, really? This is the same hair? So yeah, maybe I do need to move. I don't know.
We'll welcome you over here. The Northeast is beautiful.
You have friends in Pennsylvania, Dina.
I do.
When you visit, you'll stay forever.
One day.
One day. Okay. We're going to dive into, or should I say, Dina is going to dive into the book-specific questions. So here we go.
Okay, so for those that haven't read it yet, how would you describe the White Mask Society and the Guardians?
So it's a contemporary fantasy, ideally geared towards young adult and new adult readers. What I did for the second book was I have two versions released. So there's the Guardians and there's the Guardians After Hours edition. which is for more mature readers. It is an open door romance as opposed to the regular Guardians, which is for suitable for young adults. Closed door romance, so no spice, right? But then there's the spicy version for people who want to delve into that. So suitable for all ages and all people who are interested in that kind of thing or not interested. So whatever they decide. Otherwise, it is going to be along the lines of things like the Shadowhunters series, so like City of Bones, that kind of thing, or if Percy Jackson, but maybe like a little, the characters are a little bit older, a little bit more mature. The Shatter Me series, which I only just started reading and I kind of love, and so it's like that, but a little bit more fantasy. Whereas Shatter Me, I think of as a little bit more sci-fi. But there are shapeshifters, there are nymphs, something that we have that in the White Mask Society, I like to call he's like a plant daddy. Eric is a plant daddy as opposed to like the shadow daddy that people are really into right now, because he's still like brooding, right? But he's like not shadowy, it's plural. So
that's like my husband.
They're still mysterious. Yeah, there you go.
That is your husband. That's hilarious.
I should start calling him that. I should call him
Plant Daddy.
Plant Daddy, yeah.
He's just always
I support it.
in the yard. It's just like
he's
he
always
has like
with flowers.
10,000 plants are his babies.
I love that. Yeah. Is he broody also?
No, not too broody. Matt, are you broody?
He's quiet. He
is quiet. He does not speak his emotions. No,
but I don't think it's broodiness. I think it's just just quiet.
Introvert.
Yeah.
He's into his plants. If his plants could talk back,
then he wouldn't like them anymore.
That's true.
How funny. I felt like I kind of got like a little bit of like a sci-fi vibe too. And I felt like this story could almost be a movie or a TV series like in certain areas. So I thought it was really cool, like different than what we've been reading recently, really.
It's hard for me to like let go of, I guess, like realism. I want to live in a magical world, right? And anytime I try to introduce like a new magical system, it does start to veer a little bit towards restrictions. How would this actually work in our world, right? Part of it is because I grew up watching Star Trek and I love science fiction just as much as I love fantasy. And there is a kind of element of like how real can we get it to be like living in tandem with our world that's just like inevitable, like I can't help it. So I do really think of it as like it is a sci-fi fantasy story. Because obviously like sci-fi, there are certain tropes and expectations like going into space and aliens, which we don't really have. I mean, not really. We don't have it all in the series. But
in the series.
There's tech, right? Like there's tech and there's there are limitations. So like the shapeshifters can't change their mass and they can't change certain fundamental aspects of their physiology, like they can only be mammals, right? But at the same time, it's not something that we have. Like I compare it a little bit to Bride by Ali Hazelwood, where it's like, yes, it's vampires and werewolves, but approached a little bit more scientifically. What would vampires look like in our world, and what would a world look like if we're trying to live peacefully with them? It's not like you are turning vampires and they're not immortal. They just have long lifespans and they're born and they grow old and they die eventually. So it does have a little bit of a sci-fi flavor.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So very, very different. Okay, so how many books do you have planned in this series, and do you have any future release dates, or can you expand?
So these are the first 2 books in a trilogy, which will round out Yara's story. So Yara is the main character, the protagonist in this series, and there will be a 3rd and final installment in that trilogy. There is also a duology that will come out that's going to be in the same world but following different characters. There will be a little bit of overlap, and that duology is set kind of at the same time as book 2 as the Guardians. And that one is set in Paris at the Paris branch. And there will be, like I said, overlapping characters, but otherwise primarily focus on, the first book is set in Paris, the second book set in New York. But that will be a companion duology. Hope, ideally you don't need to read both in order to enjoy either. But when I sat down to start writing the 3rd book, I was like, boy, there is a lot that needs to happen. And it was a little overwhelming. So I was like, I'm just going to press pause and let it kind of sit on a back burner and think about it. And instead, I'll focus on another book that I had also written, which is unrelated. So that one's coming out in October of this year. Here in Atlanta, or here in the Atlanta area in Georgia, we have the Multiverse Con in October. So I'll have advanced copies there. And then the following Tuesday, which is October 21st, that will be the release date for this other book. But it is a standalone adult sci-fi romance that's got nothing to do with the White Mask Society. So as of now, the only thing that's planned in this series is that trilogy and then a companion duology.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
That'll be fun.
It's not necessarily like well, I guess it's kind of like a spin-off in a sense, or have we met the characters yet?
No, not the main characters.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the main character in the White Mask Society, she's based in Paris, so she doesn't know anything about what's going on. She will make an appearance in book 3 in the trilogy. There's kind of like, big call to arms, and so people from a bunch of different branches will come to aid in the final battle at the end of book 3. And then her love interest, he's a civilian, so he's not related, not involved in any of it, and he's based out of New York, so he's got no reason to be in California for that final free for all. But there will be some characters who will have relatively large roles in that duology, such as Emmanuelle. Obviously, she's French, right? She's in LA in the story for what's going on, but she goes home at the end of the White Mask Society, so she does appear in that duology.
Oh, cool. Well, that's exciting then.
Yeah,
we look forward to
a lot
that.
of things going on. I
Me
like
too.
it.
Yeah. Okay, so what inspired the secret society meets supernatural angle in the White Mask Society? And did any real world influences sneak their way in?
So I think it's born out of sort of just like wanting that to be real, right? Wanting there to be something more that we, this kind of magical world that maybe is like living alongside us that we don't know about. So that's just wishful thinking and kind of wanting to imagine that maybe that could all be happening and we don't know about it. As far as real world influences, not intentionally, what ended up kind of happening as I wrote the series was this sort of, originally I had wanted the White Mask Society to be this kind of like flawless organization that did all of these great things and helped all these people. And then as I started writing, I was like, oh, they're bogged down with the same kind of red tape and full crap that we're dealing with. And I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
Yes.
Okay.
We do all the time.
They're dealing with the same bullshit that like we have, in the real world. So there's like red tape where it's like, why can't we do something if we know it's the right thing to do? And I started to notice that accidentally they started ending up having a lot of the flaws that we see, in organizations in the real world.
Oh, very cool. So both books have an incredibly immersive world building. So how do you go about building your fictional worlds? Like, do you start with the character, or do you start with the magic, or do you start with something completely neither one of those? Or how do you start building your world?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for saying it's immersive. That's good to hear. So any story that I have is always going to start with an opening image and a main character. And I don't know anything about the story before I start writing it. I know who do I want the story to be about, and what would I enjoy as a reader seeing them deal with and seeing them do. And sometimes it's just as much like the book that's coming out in October. I was like, okay, well, what are some tropes that I enjoy? Let me just kind of like throw those at the wall, see what sticks, and then see what I can make out of it. And that was very much how this story, The White Mask Society, started. You start with Yara and like, what kind of situation do I want her to be in? And then the rest of it sort of just like ends up happening kind of around that. As far as world building goes, like I talked about, I kind of can't help but think about how would this be realistic in terms of like, does this work? Like I'm so nitpicky with the rules of magic and the rules of, do I believe that something like this could actually be happening? So a lot of it is like, oh, well, okay, I want there to be shapeshifters, but like, what would that actually look like? And what would the limitations be? And how can I build around that? And so a lot of it comes from, what do I want the character to be dealing with? So what world can I put her in? And then kind of like building around that. And then you sort of like find yourself kind of inevitably filling things in as conflict arises. And then the great thing is that you don't have to publish your first draft, and you can go back and revise, and you can flesh things out once you've discovered that you need them. So
right.
Thank goodness for revisions, and most of it is happening. Most of like world building is happening in there.
Yeah.
That makes
Very
sense.
cool. Yeah. So what was the most fun magical ability to write? Because we got a few in there, right? So also, no pun intended, but was there one that gave you headaches to make sense of?
That one was my least favorite. So,
really?
Yes, Yara gets headaches as a result of the visions of the future that she has. And I'll tell you, as somebody who does not plan story out before you start writing, having somebody who knows what is going to happen in the future before I do is very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
So that one was that's my least favorite thing to write. And it usually ends up being like, okay, put in big block letters, she has a vision, like keep writing, keep going, and then you're like, oh, okay, then you go back and add the vision in later. But that one's not very fun.
Interesting.
The shapeshifter one, the shapeshifter one is also challenging because they do have a lot of freedom in terms of what they can do. Like if they're good at what they do, like Carter, then they can change an aspect of their body without changing the rest of it. So they can give themselves, like not lobster claws, but like a bear claw or something, while the rest of their body stays the same. And I don't think I'm like imaginative enough. If I had been a shapeshifter and existed in that body for my whole life, I would have played around with it a lot, which I'm assuming, Carter and other shapeshifters have. And I'm like, I haven't thought about what would I do if I could change parts of my body or change parts of myself. So the nymphs for me are the most fun thing to play with, because there is there's one thing that they can do, right? So for Eric, he's, a floral nymph, so he can, do any kind of plant stuff. And that's a lot of fun to write. So like what happens at the end of the Guardians when he's helping everybody escape, it's like big explosive, like plants that he's growing out of himself. And it sounds so not dramatic when I just explain it that way, but it was cool. It was fun to write. And then Ash, who's a fire nymph, was also so much fun to write, especially since she kind of like just doesn't give a shit, and she's just going to do whatever she wants. And if that is burning things down, then she's going to burn things down. And then to be able to like become fire too, that's fun. If I can like have a really clear image of what it looks like in my head. So I would say the nymphs, honorable mention, I do love writing for Laura Black, because I think she just looks really cool. And like, I don't have a full, like, rich understanding of what, her kind of like a nymph of darkness can do and how that manifests, but I can see it in my head, and it looks cool.
I think for her, I have this like image in my head, and I think I probably should try to draw it, because she is such a cool looking character. Like, I don't know.
I want to see what you would draw.
I know. So I didn't, I should have drawn, like, now that I think about it, I should have drawn that. I went a different approach, and I did actually like Yara in a mask. So I'll have to show it to you later.
Oh, I can't wait to see. Yeah. I mean, like, that would be challenging, because she's got like, basically she's described as like having like wisps of darkness kind of always sort of like moving around her skin, and she's got like these black eyes. And I think it would be really challenging. I do like shitty little web comics, right, on Procreate, whatever, but not like any kind of the art that y'all are producing it's nothing close to that. And I think I would really, really struggle with something like
it almost have to be like a close up on her, maybe like her eyes or something, just to kind of like with the mist around her. I don't know. I have to brainstorm on that. But she was actually a really cool character. I did like her.
So my editor, she ended up being his favorite character, which was so surprising. And unexpected. I like had no real strong feelings for her one way or another.
Well, I think because she's like kind of mysterious. Cool. Yeah, like she's a cool sounding looking person or nymph, and then just there's like a mystery around her. So
that's actually a branch off on this question. Are there any characters that you like started writing and you're like, oh, they're really cool, and then at the end you're like, I just really hate this character and I just want them to go away?
Oh my gosh, a character that I hate? That I don't think so.
Like, do you think like, because I'm just like I'm finishing Tower of Dawn, and I'm just like, SJM, like, do you really like Kale this much? Like, you got to write a whole friggin' book about him. Like, do you want to kill him off eventually? Like,
is he because Tower of Dawn's like his book, right? Because I didn't get that far. I think I stopped right before Tower of Dawn.
Yeah, because before that it's great, but then you get to Tower of Dawn, you're just like, this is all Kale? It's just all Kale. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've had anybody that I like want to kill. There are some characters that well, actually, so there's
who are you killing?
No. I will say there's a character in book 3. So we start to meet Robin's family starts to have a much bigger role, which is kind of hinted at in the second book. And they will feature much more in book 3. And I do not like them.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah. I've written one, like I wrote a scene between Carter and Robin's older brother. And oh my gosh, I hate that guy.
I love it.
I always intended to hate him. Right? Like,
oh, that's perfect.
The trick. Yeah.
Ooh, can't wait.
Funny. So there's such an elegance when it comes to the masks and the guardians, which is basically why I chose to draw what I drew. So did you base that on any historical societies, or did it just kind of all come from your imagination? Like, where did the masks whole situation come from?
Yeah, I think it was literally just an aesthetic thing. And I can't pretend that there's no part of me that wasn't influenced by my childhood love of the Phantom of the Opera. Yeah. I mean, my friend would just be so mad at me for saying this, but I love the movie. When the movie came out, I loved the movie, and I love when they make movie musicals because it makes it more accessible, because it's not possible for everyone to go see live theater, especially musicals like that. If you're not near a big city and tickets are expensive, anything. So I loved the movie. I went through my Phantom of the Opera phase when I was in high school. I'm dating myself, but so I'm sure that influenced it a great deal.
We're the same age then.
Okay. In good company. Co-millennials. But the reason it stayed is because it does make sense for them to have masks when they're in the field. And when I started thinking about the history of the society, where do they come from? If you think back to times when people were people are still being persecuted for being different, but it started a long time ago that was happening. And so the history of the society and the story is that, and I think it was the 1400s in France primarily, right? Which is why Paris is why there's the main branch. And they started like fighting for themselves. Deviants, who is anybody who's non-human, right, but magical. So shapeshifters, nymphs are all deviants. And they started fighting for themselves. And the way that they would protect their identity was by raiding the catacombs in Paris and stealing this skulls that were down there and using those as masks. So that's how I was able to justify keeping that aesthetic in. Cool. And I kind of love the sort of morbid history behind it, and the fact that it still has remained and is a way for them to maintain their anonymity in battle.
Very cool.
I like that. That's cool.
So you do have a lot of like the France or like French inspired. Is that something like personal and near and dear to your heart, or is that just something that you enjoy? Or
it's I guess it's personal. My mother is French, so half of my family is over there. And so it's easy, right? You write what you know. And the story's set in LA. So I lived in LA for 14 years. And France has got a cool history. And there's a great deal of stuff that is set in the catacombs in the duology that isn't out yet, obviously. It's it's not written entirely, but it's easy to incorporate French stuff because it's a lot of my own personal family history.
That's so
very
fun.
cool.
Very
cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
So let's talk about Yara. So I know we kind of touched on it before, but did she come to you fully formed, or did she kind of reveal herself slowly to you as you wrote along, or how did you come up with her?
Yeah. So I always try to start with as much of a full vision of what the main character is going to be. Like I said before, that's how any of my stories start, is with the main character. That being said, I can't imagine that I would be able to just imagine I know the entirety of who she is. So the things that I started out with Yara, her basic building blocks, was a lot of my own insecurities in high schools and things, own personal challenges, things like anxiety and introversion and not liking, being touched and whatever. As far as how stubborn and hard-headed and frustrating she can be, those were things that ended up being revealed as the story got written. So she does go through an enormous, transformation throughout the course of the trilogy. Like, who she will be at the end of book 3 is not who she is at the beginning of book 1. And even in book 1, who she is at the end is not who she was at the beginning. And she goes through it. Like, a lot of horrible, unimaginable things happen to Yara. And when you think of the position she was in at the beginning, it's hard for anybody to deal with what she has to go through, right? So I had a lot of her already, like the idea of her as this kind of like small, sort of nervous person who couldn't really communicate effectively. But her growth and stuff, that's all discovery as I wrote.
That's cool. So it's kind of like you grew with her, right? Or her character developed and everybody grew together throughout the story.
She changes the most probably of anyone.
Yeah. Very cool. So then would you say that you relate to her, or is there any other characters that maybe you relate to a little bit more? Or?
Oh, no, I relate to Yara for sure. Even when she's at her most frustrating. I wish I could relate to like Robin or Carter. I love Robin so much, but he's like, he's who I wish I could be, like that level of ease and camaraderie that he has. But I could never be as cool as Robin is.
Yeah, I could say from a personal level, like I was probably like Yara when I was in high school, so hopefully I also went through some growth like she did.
And hopefully without having to go through what she goes through.
Yeah, exactly. So the shapeshifters, I thought it was very cool that they would identify as non-binary. What a mind blow! So cool. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I never even thought of that.
Right? So cool. Yeah. So was that intentional from the start, or did Carter just kind of evolve as the writing process did? Or can you talk a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So Carter, their character never changed really. I always had a very clear idea of who Carter was, as this very calming presence, very patient, and sort of, people kind of gravitate towards them because they are just always calm, right? Like, so their character, the essence of who they were, never changed. But the discovery that shapeshifters are non-binary came pretty, like, relatively late in the game. I grew up not really with any concept of, gender being a construct or of non-binary existence. It was just not something that ever occurred to me. And then you start, learning more about it, and you're like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. And there's an element where I realized at one point in my life, if I had been raised without gender, I wouldn't have gender, right? I identify as female because that's how I was raised. And it's not, a slight against my parents in any way. I had a wonderful childhood, but it is, I guess, a relatively new recognition that we are, I don't want to say conditioned, but we are encouraged to fit within certain gender norms. And as you start learning about this, that you like look at my dogs, for instance. Like, I've had dogs my whole life, and people misgender them, and then you always want to like correct, like, oh no, she's a girl, right? But it doesn't matter, and they don't care, and they're not different because they're male or female dogs, right? It's the same.
Such a good point.
So you start to realize, like, like I have, you know, long hair because I identify as female, whatever it might be. That's not a good example, but so you kind of like start to realize that about yourself, and it's like, oh well, if I could actually change my exterior to change based on, I mean, there have been plenty of days where I'm like, I wish I were a guy, and I wish I could just, you know, present as a guy, or I mean, I went through plenty of phases where I dressed as boys and hung out with only boys, and if I could actually change my exterior, I'm like, yeah, I would be non-binary, and I wouldn't care one way or another. And so when you realize like that there's an entire group of people who can do that, the shapeshifters in this world, it's like gender just has absolutely no meaning whatsoever.
It's such a mind blow because it's so simple. But we don't think of it.
But like, why wouldn't that be the case?
Right.
We're not taught to think of things that way. You're taught that sex and gender go hand in hand when they're like not the same thing at all.
Right.
So fascinating.
Very interesting. I like that.
Then, and within the story too, Yara also is kind of like trying to not figure it out, but learn how to maybe act around them or dress them, and, you know, and not step on their toes or be offensive in any way too. So that's kind of cool to see her process and her learning curve with that as well.
Yeah. And it was really important to me that was done in a genuine way, because it is a challenge for a lot of people. It's something that's relatively new to use they them pronouns for singular people. For individuals, it's like a lot of people, especially older generations, struggle with it a lot. And anytime they make an effort, that is so important. And I've heard, you know, people who are non-binary saying like, we recognize the efforts that you're making. And it's like, and thank you. Right. And want to try to normalize asking people what pronouns they use, or correcting yourself if you make a mistake, because we all make mistakes. We slip up, we don't, you know, remember, you know, so it was important to me that be represented in a way that made it even like accessible to people, so that they could recognize you don't have to be perfect, and it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay to ask.
I think that was done perfectly.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So one of our favorite questions to ask is, if your book was adapted into a film or TV series, who would be your dream cast for the main characters?
I knew this one was coming. So,
it's sometimes most difficult too, right?
It is.
It's hard. Yeah. So I have my truthful answer, and then I have like my better PR answer, right? So, because I realized, like, in listening to people answer this question about books that I hadn't read, it's like when they say something that's intriguing, you're like, oh, I want to see this person that you see played by, you know, 1999 Brendan Fraser or whatever it might be. The truth is, which I would never say no. But the truth is, I love, as an actor, and I think that affects it a little bit, but I love seeing new people that are just right for the role. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be name recognition. And for something like this, like, let's say in an ideal world, it gets turned into a movie or a TV show. I think that there is power in name recognition, but I would love to see them in the smaller roles. So like Laura Black, I think, would be a good candidate for having a name, right? And so I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, somebody who's commanding and has like an impressive presence. The first person I could think of would be like Angelina Jolie, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
And then I would love for like the core of the Guardians for them to be unknowns, but that's not an exciting answer. So I thought about it long and hard. The only ones that I could actually think of definitive names for are Yara and Robin. So Yara, if we could go with like a Divergent era Shailene Woodley, but with red hair. And then for Robin, it would be a pre-Elvis Austin Butler, but with but with Timothy Chalamet's Dune hair, but blonde. So like we put him in a wig.
I like this. I like the combo
of a bunch of different things, but yeah, pre-Elvis Austin Butler, so before he got the really deep voice.
Okay, I'm with you.
I like that. When you write the characters, do you have like certain images in your mind, or like are you using certain actors or actresses, or do you just kind of
not actors. I see them very, very clearly, and that's why the casting is so difficult for me. Is because like Austin Butler doesn't look like Robin in my head, but he would do, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I see them so clearly, and I've like gone through phases where I try to draw them the best I can. I don't have the skills in order to really fully realize what I'm actually seeing in my head. So yeah, I don't see actors in those roles like at all.
Yeah. Very cool. I wouldn't mind seeing some known or upcoming names, that we're not necessarily familiar with. I could see that.
Yeah, but that's a less exciting answer, right? Like who you cast like an unknown, like nobody. That's less exciting. But that's my true answer. It's like give somebody who's really good a chance, and if they're right for the role,
Yeah.
Perfect. So just a couple more questions. What was the hardest scene to write in the White Mass Society, like emotionally for you?
That's hard. I love writing emotional stuff. Things that like the obvious answer would be dealing with the death at the end of book one, but I love writing that because it's easy to tap into what grief and loss feels like. And as somebody who's always been very dramatic, and it's like I find it comes really easily to me to write emotional scenes. In terms of something that's actually challenging to write is usually action. And unfortunately, I've put an enormous amount of action in these books. So the escape, for instance, at the end, or not the end, but at the end of Act 2,
towards
book 1, and then the escape at the end of book 2 were both really difficult. But I don't know if they were emotionally difficult, more sort of logistically difficult. But
right.
If it's the more emotional it gets, the more fun it gets. So I've never had something that's like emotionally difficult to write, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see where the action scenes could almost be more difficult because to map it out in your head about exactly how they're escaping, what they're doing, who's doing what, like that seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's very difficult. My editor says I'm really, really good at it, which is very nice of him, but it also puts a lot of pressure on each new action scene that I have to write because it's like, what if it's not as good as the last one? And then I had a review that said, like, I felt like I was watching a movie, and they didn't like the fact that they were watching. They felt like they were watching like an action-packed movie. I'm like, that's kind of what I was going for. But yeah.
Oh, see, I felt like it was moving.
They like that?
Yeah.
I pulled that quote and I put it on my website. I was like, this sounds awesome, even if you didn't like it.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's kind of what I felt like. I feel like it's like you're watching a movie, like an action, like a sci-fi fantasy, like movie. I thought it was good. I like that.
Yeah, you don't want it like slow and boring.
I like
you
it when
want
I can
it
see
like
things clearly in my head. They didn't like it. I don't care. I still pulled that quote.
There you go.
It made me happy.
Took a positive out of it. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the last question I have you been approached with any theories that maybe the readers have come up with that you feel surprised about, or maybe made you wish that you had thought of that to pan out a certain way? Or
it was before book 2 had come out, and it was actually from my husband, his theory of who the spy was, and I realized I was actually wrong and he was right.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So we learn in book 1 that there's a mole in this society, and I had in my head I was like, oh, it's this person. Yeah. And it was the obvious answer, and then my husband was like, I think it's this person. I was like, that is so much better, and you're right, it is this person.
Does he take credit for it? Is he gonna never let you live it down?
The book's dedicated to him. But he didn't get any credit for it.
That's okay.
I still wrote it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the person I thought was the mole did not end up being the mole. So you tricked me, or your husband maybe tricked me then.
It was my husband. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm so curious to know, who did you think it was? So
it bounced back and forth between a few people, but yeah. it didn't
Did
end up
it
being.
make sense who it was at least?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yeah, when it came, I was
That's
like,
good.
oh, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I should have seen that one.
Yay. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. So good job.
Hey,
good job, hubby.
I'll tell him.
Yeah.
All right, on to our lightning round. And you said you've listened to our episode, so you know how it goes.
Yes.
All right. So, real quick, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay. Interesting. We don't get a lot of tea people,
we
but that's cool.
don't.
I think I would die if I were to drink a cup of coffee.
Oh.
I think it
That's too
would
much
kill me.
caffeine.
No, it just tastes bad.
Oh.
Oh, you're so funny. Oh my goodness. Do you put milk or sugar in your tea?
Or honey.
Or honey? Yeah, what do you
I
put?
now put a little bit of agave in.
Ooh.
But sometimes I'll have it black just to remind myself that I still like the taste of tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun. I like that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Who would you save in a fire? Tamlin or Kale?
Kale, because I haven't gotten to the part where he sucks yet.
I mean, it's not that he sucks.
No,
It's
he
just
sucks.
like, I mean,
Well,
not in
I mean,
Tower of Dawn.
Tamlin
He's not
sucks,
like
so-
yeah, Tamlin sucks, but like
Yeah.
he's not evil in Tower of Dawn. But
I think he got a little bit of a redemption. Little.
I could see where the redemption is coming. I know Jen is a big hater, but no, Tamlin sucks.
No, Tamlin's the
sucks.
worst. It's okay.
Tam's the worst.
Yeah.
All right. And then I want to add to this because we had a
Yes.
correction from our last one. So paperback, hardcover, Kindle, or audio.
Right. Yeah. I heard a couple people say audio. For me, it depends on the book. So overall Kindle. I get like library books sent right to my Kindle, and it's easy to hold in my tiny little hand.
Yes.
So
My tiny little hands.
ebook. You ever tried reading like a book, like holding a book in bed?
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yes.
It hurts my
Yeah,
fingers.
flops on your face
Especially
if you're laying.
hardcover.
Hardcovers
Yeah.
are the worst.
Then like you
I
can't
actually like
let it-
hardcovers. 'Cause
They're
then I don't
nice.
bend back the soft cover and it's not permanently broken.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's easier like a hardcover. It's easier to keep the pages open, like if
It
you're
is.
reading while you're eating. But Kindle,
Well,
you don't
yeah.
have to worry about it at all. So,
Yeah.
Kindle for the most part. I will say for contemporary romances, I do audiobooks, like Allie
Mm.
Hazelwood audiobooks. That's my jam.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, cool. All right. First person POV or third person?
It depends on the story. So, right now the book I'm writing is first person, and it is so much fun. If the narrator has a fun voice, I prefer first person.
Mm.
Like if they have like a unique voice, if there's a reason for it to be in first person.
Mm.
Otherwise, I would say third.
Oh, I like
Interesting.
that answer.
That was a cool answer.
Not really. I guess it doesn't really work with like rapid fire. I'm like,
No,
well,
That's
you're
okay.
good.
like both,
You
but
know,
under different
half the
circumstances.
time people don't rapid this anyway, so that's okay.
I think we're part of the problem though here.
Yeah.
Okay.
we're talking about your answers.
We are
Both
part
have
of the
merits.
problem.
They're both great. Yeah.
So funny.
All right. Early morning reading or late night?
Both.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
All
fair.
day.
You're a reader
all day
and you're a
reading.
writer. Who cares?
That's
All
fair.
day
Whenever
reading.
you get the
Yeah.
chance, right?
Yes.
Twisted plots or romantic tension?
Romantic tension.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All the way, baby.
Yeah. I don't care about a twisted plot if there's not at least a little bit of romance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Need a little bit of that. All right. And then last, the white mask society question. Would you rather be a Haydn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nymph or a shapeshifter?
I don't know.
Talked about, not to answer for you.
couldn't
I
prepare
think
an
you would
answer.
pick nymph based off of your questions, but
I think so
your
too.
answers
I pick
were
nymph. A shapeshifter would be so much fun though. Like
Yeah.
you could look like other people or become a dog, but nymph would also be cool. Yeah, I don't know. The Haydn, obviously, like there's a Haydn who can heal herself. That would be
Mm.
super awesome. You'd never
Yeah.
get sick, and
That's
so.
clutch,
But
yeah.
let's go with. Oh my gosh, let's go with shapeshifter.
Okay.
I'm like,
Good for
asking,
you.
like the answer
You're
really
like, oh
matters.
gosh, oh
now, but-
You're so
Well,
funny.
I think it also depends. Like, are you in the white mass society? Like, yeah, I think a shapeshifter like works perfect for being in a society, right?
Mhm.
Like,
It would, yeah, just a huge
Und-
advantage.
yeah.
Yeah.
But as an actor too, I think being a shapeshifter would also be really
For
advantageous.
sure.
True.
For sure.
Good
Just in life
point.
in general.
You get
Yeah.
so many jobs.
Yeah. You want an Angelina Jolie type? Well, check this out.
Yeah, there
I'll
you
just be
go.
a 5'2" Angelina Jolie.
Love
I
that.
love it. All right. So you did talk about projects you're currently working on. Any more hints or teasers about things you got coming up?
So this one that's coming out in October is kind of taking up my entire brain power. I just released the title on my newsletter, so I can now officially say the title, which is Blaze Forth, The Death of Princes. It is from Shakespeare, even though the book has nothing to do with Shakespeare at all, but it does have to do with the death of princes. It is a standalone adult romantic sci-fi book. There's no cute title for romantasy, but for science fiction. So my husband's suggestion was science friction.
That's cute.
I'm pointing.
I like him. He sounds fun.
Yeah.
And that will be coming out October 21st, unless you happen to be in Peachtree City the weekend before, and you can get an advance copy. But
cool.
That's the new one. I just saw the title, or excuse me, the cover, and it looks amazing. So yeah, that's the.
Do you have the same person do all your cover art?
No. So I actually did the covers for the White Mask Society.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Like, thank you. And I was like, I think I can find somebody who can do better. So yeah, so I went with a pro, and boy, is the difference noticeable. So just finalized the cover for Blaze, and I'm very excited about it.
Yay.
Very cool. Good. Congrats. So
it's
exciting.
a great name. Great name.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. I was like on the fence about it for a long time, but then I kept thinking about it, and I was like, now I can't go with anything else. And I do love Shakespeare, so
yeah,
that's cool. Very nice.
Amazing.
All right. Is there anything else you want the listeners to know?
Oh my gosh, no! You guys are delightful and wonderful, and thank you for having me on. And I hope, even if one more person finds my books through this, then it's a massive success.
Yeah.
Love
well,
that.
Tell the listeners where they can find you.
Sure. I'm online at ileacolwell.com. That is maybe difficult to spell, so you can also find me on Instagram at amcolwellwrites, and there is a link to my website on Instagram to make it so you don't have to worry about the spelling.
There you go.
Perfect.
Love it. Perfect.
Love it.
So everyone, make sure you follow us everywhere you listen. Rate, review, please. Follow us on Instagram at Sips With the Suriel, Suriel. Click our Linktree bio and follow us on Goodreads. We will put out our episodes each week on YouTube so you can see Ilea's beautiful face and her magical romantasy hair. Please subscribe and like. Same name, Sips With the Suriel. And friends, keep reading to whatever end. Thank you, Ilea. You're so wonderful.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.